Radical Radio Collective.
4ZZZ. Buongiorno, listeners. You're on 4ZZZ. This is Eco Radio, Australia's longest running peace and environment radio show, probably, Andy?
Oh, I reckon it has to be.
Yeah, I reckon. My name is Dave. My pronouns are he, him.
My name's Andy. My pronouns are he, him.
And I want to start off by acknowledging and paying my respects to the custodians on the country in which we broadcast. We're located in the city Mungin, Mianjin, on Turrbal Yagara Yugambal land. I also want to acknowledge and pay my respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are listening in today. Our radio waves reach Cubby Cubby and Yinambara country in the north, Waka Waka country in the west. In the east, we pay our respects to the Quandamooka people, and down south we reach the Kaimari, Nigaragua, Mununjali, Wandjarabara, Yugambeh and Bunjalung countries. A big shout out to the Guri Embassy there on Barrambin or Victoria Park, holding it down. Fantastic work. I know that they've been interviewed a lot on 4ZZZ recently, and I just want to give a big shout out to them
definitely,
for the work that they're doing, and revitalising and practicing cultural ways
on their traditional lands. Yes.
Yeah. I also want to thank No Idea for their fantastic ideas. I know that they were talking about chimpanzees maybe predicting rain by building their shelters up high and with proper rain deterrents, much like ants when they can feel the change in temperature or atmospheric pressure or something, will build their nests entryways up high.
Yes.
To prevent from getting swamped or flooded.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm not sure whether ants do it for, like, whether they're conscious of it either, but it is something that seems to be innate in some species that live in the environment.
Yeah, I think it's probably related to their sensations of atmospheric pressure. You know, once they feel it, they go into that mode of going, okay, we've got to build up higher, and probably not something that they consciously think about, but just something they feel and go ahead and do. And
yeah, I feel like we would have done that as hominin species.
Yeah, definitely.
When we were more environmentally minded, or
closer to nature, I guess. Through our socialization, we've tried to separate ourselves more and more from the environment in which we evolved in, to such a point where we don't take on to those natural sort of frequencies anymore, if you like.
But I will blast bomb on the Facebook posts if they don't send me a warning about a incoming thunderstorm. Yeah. They will hear about this. Well, today we're not talking about weather. We're going to be talking to Joseph Kuau. I'm going to play a follow-up interview I did with Joseph. He's a customary chief of the Kaimari tribe and traditional owner from Baimuru in the Purari Delta. Joseph is leading a campaign to protect his people's land from the destruction by an LNG project there in Papua New Guinea. Almost 2 months ago we talked to Joseph, but the other week I talked to him because he went down to Adelaide to speak at the Santos annual general meeting and join the protests outside by other First Nations people. And later in the show, I'm going to be talking to Mark Cashmore. Mark is leading a citizen science project called Hollow Watch Australia. It is about identifying the hollows in trees, and he's developed an app to help people log and monitor the different animals that frequent and use hollows and artificial nest box in our bush. So that's fantastic. And I want to just talk about the booing that went on at Anzac Day events in Melbourne and Sydney and Perth, actually. I think a lot of people are making this about the Welcome to Country, but I don't think it has anything to do with the Welcome to Country. The booing was put on by white supremacists and neo-Nazis. You can look up the work of Tom Tanuki to see the receipts on that. And they are planning to boo any black or brown veterans that have a platform on Anzac Day because they are white supremacists. Those are the people that are doing it, and they're doing it for attention. The vast majority of people there were in favour of the Welcome to Country and gave it a rousing round of applause afterwards. It's a unfortunate, statement they were making at a very difficult time anyways. So, those are my thoughts. I obviously don't speak for all veterans, but I found it to be pretty effing gross.
Yeah, definitely. Especially, when you look at the Anzac spirit in World War One and World War Two, fighting against fascism and things like that. This goes against the whole grain of what, the not celebrating but acknowledging the veterans and what they died for.
Yeah, that's a good point. These were neo-Nazis from the disbanded National Socialist Network in Melbourne and Sydney, and these are the same people we fought against in World War II.
Yep.
And we'll probably have to fight against them again. Let's go to a song now. This is a new one from Tom Waits and Massive Attack. This is called Boots on the Ground, an anthem for anti-war. You're listening to 4ZZZ. This is Eco Radio.
4ZZZ is a proudly independent community radio station. We've been supported by our listeners since 1975. If you like what we do, you can support us for a whole year by subscribing to 4ZZZ online, over the phone, or in person at the station. Visit 4ZZZ.org.au/support for more details on how to keep community radio thriving.
Welcome back. You're on 4ZZZ. This is Eco Radio. I am Dave.
Oh, I'm Andy.
Just want to keep you on your toes, Andy. Sorry.
Thank you.
And we just heard then from Massive Attack and Tom Waits with Boots on the Ground. We did get a text in from Matt. Matt says, my family were the first white people in many, many places. He could not go to an Anzac Day and acknowledge soldiers in his family without acknowledging First Nations people that his family murdered and enslaved. Yep. I think it's important that we acknowledge all the wars, including the frontier wars, that wanted to protect their home from colonisation. Let's go to an interview I did with Joseph Ka'au. Joseph is a customary chief of the Kaimari tribe, a traditional owner from the Baimuru in the Purari Delta in Papua New Guinea. He's trying to protect his home from the destruction of an LNG project that will legally dump waste into his river system. So let's go to that. You're on 4ZZZ Eco Radio. Joseph, thank you so much for talking to us again. Could you please remind our listeners of your fight to preserve the Purari Delta?
Okay. Yeah, my name is Joseph Ka'au. I'm a tribal leader from the the Purari Delta of the Gulf province of Papua New Guinea. And that's where the Papua LNG project is located. Australian company Santos is one of the partners in the project. So, yeah, in October last year, the government issued a permit to the developer of the project, partner of Santos, Total Energies, to discharge waste into the environment. Now, the people are represented about 20,000 plus live on the delta area of this. It's downstream from where the project is located. So they don't tell us what the waste is and where in the environment they're going to discharge the waste. So we're assuming that it could be a toxic waste, it could be into the environment. So that's what we've been trying to fight, or to get government to withdraw the permit.
Yeah, and how important is the Purari Delta to your way of life there?
The Purari Delta is basically the life of those people who live in there. It's their livelihood. Without the delta and without the water being poisoned, we are dead. Our fish dies, our sago dies, and then we have nothing to eat and we die.
So you went down to Adelaide to the Santos AGM. Can you tell us about what happened there?
Well, we were allowed to speak to the board and the shareholders. And that is exactly what I told them. That the permit has been issued and it's for 25 years and it started as of the 9th of September last year. And like I said, it's the waste that we have hearing about could be hydrogen sulfide, which is toxic. So if it's discharged into the environment, and they don't tell us what the environment is. But that's what I said, because everywhere in PNG, most of the projects, they just dump their waste into the nearest river. So the assumption here could be the same, that if they don't mention where they're going to dump it, then it could be straight into the water. So I told the directors and the shareholders that you can't. We will not allow this to happen in Papua New Guinea. The permit must be withdrawn.
Yeah, because it wouldn't be illegal dumping. It would be part of the process, right?
Yeah, it will be legal dumping.
Yeah.
And like the government is giving authority to the company to kill our fish and our environment and our people. That's what it means.
So can you tell me what you did when you were at the AGM?
Well, this is what I said to the directors and to the shareholders, that your company with its partners is going to destroy my environment and my people. And I also mentioned that the waste could be hydrogen sulfide, and that's what's mentioned in the environmental plan. It's mentioned that one of the substance waste created after the gas has been processed is hydrogen sulfide. And the chairman of the Santos board reacted he said this is a very powerful statement. So I'm assuming that he will do something about it.
Yeah. And then there was a protest outside the AGM?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes, this was mostly from the First Nations people and those people from Australia who don't like Santos. And so me and my friends from PNG, I was able to speak on behalf of my people and tell them exactly what the Santos and partners are doing in PNG, in my place. So there was a strong push to stop Santos and its partners in Papua LNG. Yeah.
So you're expecting a good outcome from this statement at the AGM?
Well, the statement has been circulated across some media in Australia as well. So, and Santos is a big boy. So how to respond to what we're saying is, usually they just ignore this type of things,
Yeah.
But we won't let it hang loose like that.
Okay, so what's the next steps?
Well, I'm going to go back and mobilize my people. Firstly, they have to be informed because the information came out late last year, the permit, and we didn't have enough time to tell everybody about the possible impacts of this permit. So I will go back from here and talk to all my people. Right. Go to every village and tell them this this is what this permit means. Some will understand, many will not understand.
Right.
But because I'm talking to them in my language, in our language, I think they will understand.
Okay, so that sounds hopeful.
Yeah, it sounds like going forward.
Mm. Yeah, in a good direction.
Yeah. But the support from Australians and maybe back home we can get the support that's necessary to make some change happen. And my demand was like telling the shareholders and the board that this must not happen. The permit must not be executed.
Yeah. So how can we help from here in Australia?
Yeah, that's like the media has been alerted. SBS was there. We've spoken to some level with ABC and a few others. But like I said, Santos is a big boy.
Yeah.
And when we respond to them, it must make effect. Must have some effect. But it's not the end of the fight. I think it's the beginning, and
yeah,
it's going to continue. But like Australians, Santos is one of the biggest companies. So
yeah,
the rally outside the forum was like, yeah, big, good. There was some level of solidarity amongst those people who came and supported us. Plus, they were fighting for their own rights as well. Yeah, so there's some people from Gomeroi.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, they came as well, and actually in the AGM they actually had to remove Kara from the meeting when she was speaking.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they brought in the security guards and they moved her out of the meeting. We were surprised.
Yeah, that's a shame.
We don't expect those type of things in Australia, but they do happen.
Yeah, absolutely, they do happen. Yeah. Well, thank you for talking to us. And hopefully we can spread the word a bit more and get some more support there.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Is there anything else you want to leave our listeners with?
I guess we need the support from Australia to ensure that Santos doesn't support Total to discharge the waste. It must not be allowed to happen. I don't know how to do it, but one way is to raise concern at this level, but also at our end in the village.
Yeah.
To tell the government that we're not happy, tell the company you can't do this, and then hopefully something might happen.
Yeah.
For me, the best thing for Total to do is to pump all this waste into big container ships and take them to Paris and dump them in front of the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, right.
And we don't have to worry about these things, but that's wishful thinking.
Yeah, that's an interesting analogy. That it would be like dumping waste in front of the Eiffel Tower. To destroy your homes.
Yeah, and same as Santos, we could bring all the waste down to Adelaide and dump it in front of the office. If they think it's okay to in PNG, then why don't bring all the waste down to Adelaide or Brisbane, wherever they're located?
Yeah.
But yeah, at least something has been said and some movement is taking place. So hopefully that happens.
Yeah. All right. I'm glad we can get more eyes and ears on this fight.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Thanks very much, Joseph.
Yeah. Thank you, David.
All right. Have a good, safe trip.
Thank you very much.
That was my conversation with Joseph Ka'au. That was a couple of weeks ago now. Joseph is a customary chief of the Kaimari tribe, traditional owner from the Baimuru in the Purari Delta, and he's fighting to have the LNG project, PNG LNG project, not be allowed to dump waste in their homes, in their water systems. And I think it's not an interesting point. It's a no-brainer to me. But when we do LNG projects here in Australia, we have specific laws against dumping into. It still happens, but specific laws against dumping into our environment. And in PNG, they will just do as they wish.
Yeah, which is really unfortunate. They don't really take that respect that the environment needs. They only follow what the law stipulates rather than what the environment needs. Yeah. Unfortunately,
the base minimum of what they should be doing is protecting the environment. But Australian companies get to railroad other countries and communities into a really detrimental environmental impact. Let's go to a song now. This is George Telek, legendary PNG artist, with his song Go Long Way, Long Bush, featuring Archie Roach. You're listening for Triple Z. This is Eco Radio.
Paradigm Shifts podcast is available online and via your favourite podcasting app, challenging the assumptions of our current society to investigate alternative ways of living for a world based on justice, solidarity and sustainability. Tune in to the Paradigm Shift podcast. Just search The Paradigm Shift for Triple Z.
You are listening for Triple Z. This is Eco Radio, and we just heard then from George Telek with Gone Long Way, Long Bush, featuring Archie Roach. Absolutely fantastic song. On the line now, I'm talking to Mark Cashmore. Mark is leading a citizen science project called Hollow Watch Australia. Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us on.
Oh, absolutely. Can you tell us what Hollow Watch Australia is?
Yes, I can. It's a citizen science project. My background's arboriculture, and we've been involved with nest boxes and introduced hollows and habitat for a long time. Mm-hmm. And there's lots of fantastic projects happening all around the country in this space. But the data is really thin on the ground. So the idea is to get everyone together and share data and learn a bit more about this introduced habitat space.
Yeah, okay. I want to talk about the benefits of introduced hollows, but why is it important to collect this data?
Well, we have lost, I think, billions of hollow-bearing trees. It's a massive issue, and whilst you can have a forest with trees, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a healthy ecosystem. And we have groups, as I say, doing wonderful work, trying to ameliorate this and improve it. But if you put up a nest box, is that the best? Is that the best thing to do? Is that the best use of resources and time? And we know some things. We know that nest boxes can help a population of fauna that's struggling, but we just don't know enough. And so I'm not sure that I've answered your question, but I think that data moves everything. Data moves progress. It moves politicians. It moves this space. So if we have some good data, particularly if it's Australia-wide, then we should be getting better environmental outcomes.
Yeah. So if we collected, all of the Greater Brisbane area, all of the natural hollows, and introduced hollows, yes, where they are, and possibly what's using them.
Yes.
We would better be able to understand how introduced hollows are used and native natural hollows, correct?
Yeah, if you've got that comparison, particularly important is that data over time. So having some historical records. People have been doing work in this space for a long time, but the rest of us don't have access to that information. It's in the filing cabinet somewhere.
Right. So this will be like iNaturalist for hollows.
Yeah, exactly. It's much more specific, but it brings together a lot of data. And an individual group who participates, they have their data and they manage that data, and they can obfuscate or hide it from others if they choose. But at least it's in one place, and we're using consistent fields. So down the track, if a researcher really wants to dig into this, then they know who to go to. They know who's been working on what project for how long, and they might say, let's pull together all the groups in Brisbane or across Queensland, see what they've been doing, what have they learnt, and then really pull some valuable figures out of that.
Yeah, okay. Well, how did you come to this? You said you were an arborist.
Yeah, I trained in arboriculture, and so whilst arborists are trained to care for trees effectively, the reality is most arborists spend most of their time cutting trees down. which can be a bit soul-destroying. But there's this whole world of crossover between arborists and science and the ecosystem. So I moved into this space where we started doing ecological work as well. But you can say you have a tree in the backyard and it is dangerous. Say that's very rare. Trees are very low risk. But say you do have one that is dangerous. Is taking it down to ground level the best solution? Why aren't we maybe managing that tree over long term, or at least retaining habitat stag with introduced hollows in the longer term? Why aren't we doing that stuff? And so as an arborist, I was knocking over trees in backyards, but over time we worked towards how we could introduce hollows and where the nest boxes sit in that picture, and so that kind of guided my career, and we moved much more into that space. So I still climb trees, but I can't remember the last time I knocked over a tree.
Yeah, right. Because it seems like a no-brainer, right? We need more hollows for fauna, so we create boxes, or we try to relocate hollows from other trees. Is this actually what the fauna needs?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not. No. The most important thing is that we protect and retain our existing habitat and improve it. It's really important that we protect what we have. We lose so many trees through, logging and fires and climate change. So we have to do more to protect that. And maybe even, this type of research would help inform that conversation. Maybe the result will be that nest boxes and introduced hollows just don't even come close to replacing a lost tree. And that can help push that argument that we just have to protect what little of our habitat is left. But there is a space for this stuff, and we have lost a lot of trees, so let's understand the very best way to offset those losses.
Yeah. I was just wondering how people can get the app, how it works, what people can do. Do they need to put their phone on a really long stick and stick it into the hollow?
No, the whole project is being supported by ProofSafe, which is a Australian-based business that specialises in data collection. And so they've set up this platform where, with a special form for hollows and introduced cavities, which is very, very specific, which makes it quite different from iNaturalist and similar projects. And so usually it would be a group, but it could be an individual would set up a profile on ProofSafe, and that takes a couple of minutes. And then they put the mobile app on their phone. That takes 30 seconds. And then they go to the form for the Hollow Watch Australia, and they can fill in data. And so they would be, maybe they're in the backyard, they'd stand next to the tree and just fill in whatever information they have. They might not know the species of the tree, but they just put in, the phone will give them the GPS point, so they have that. The phone will allow them to take photos, so they have that. They can put in their notes and the size of the tree and the type of habitat. Was it a double-walled nest box, or a recycled plastic, or was it a chainsaw cavity? And then they save it, and it's on their computer back at the office, or in their office. And it's a very simple process, and once they've uploaded that from the field, they're done. And then it might be in a year's time. They might not think about it for a year. They could come back in a year, and particularly if it was like a council, they could do a lookup on their app, and they say, I want to know where all the nest boxes in this area are, and they do a lookup, and then they can find them. So then they can use their phone, navigate to the habitat, and then click on it to see what was put in and why. Then they could update that information, and now we have a record over time. The cameras, there's no cameras set up in this project yet, but potentially the dashboard where you see these cavities and hollows could host streaming and things like that. That's next level. This has only just begun, and we're still working with participants on fine tuning. But the video thing, sticking a camera in the hole, could be done down the track.
Okay.
You need to be a bit careful. There's another issue here. If you're checking a hollow, if you're putting your head inside a nest box, you're getting very close to native fauna, and we need to be careful about that too. So we want to improve habitat, but we also need to be careful about the ethics of these native animals. So there's a lot to be learnt there. You know, people want to be involved and they want to do the best they can, but this is an opportunity for people to share knowledge on how to work with native animals, how to introduce cavities, how to protect the trees that they're working with, all that sort of stuff.
Hi, Mark. This is Andy. I agree. This is a fantastic initiative of bringing together all that data that, you know, a lot of NRM groups or individual, you know, citizen scientists might have squirreled away. But, yeah, having it all in one area is very fortuitous. I just wanted to ask you a question with your arborist background about is there a scope for salvage hollows, you know, like removing a tree which may have a good established hollow in it. Is there any scope for, instead of feeding it through the wood chipper, to actually salvage that hollow?
Yes, absolutely. There's if you're removing a tree, if you must remove a tree, that hollow timber that comes down is really, really valuable. And of course, we'd much rather see it salvaged and put back up in another tree, or even on the ground. You know, the ground-based habitat's important too.
Yep, because as you know, these those natural hollows take hundreds of years to form, and we're, you know, quite often just replacing with plywood boxes that only last, you know, under a decade. So having those salvaged hollows is equally important.
Yeah, very much so. And you're spot on. These, you know, nest boxes, they come in all shapes and sizes, and I saw some video yesterday of some nest boxes that were going up in the Central Highlands of Victoria, but they've screwed them to the tree in such a way that they're going to pop off in about 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, this is some basic stuff. Let's get the details right. If we're going to go with a plywood box that just doesn't biodegrade and we're going to stick it in a natural environment, let's get the small things right.
Yep.
That's a good point about collecting the data on native nesting hollows. That if you have that data already collected, and then you come back a year later, that tree's cut down, then you have a logbook of what you've lost.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea. Can you tell our listeners how they can find you and get involved in the Hollow Watch Australia app?
Yes, so it's all supported by ProofSafe, which is at proofsafe.com.au. ProofSafe does a lot of different things, and so you might not immediately see all the Hollow stuff, but there's a page specifically set up with information on Hollow Watch Australia, and the details are there to contact our team and me personally. So if anyone has any questions, and so jump onto ProofSafe, talk to myself, and have a play with it. I think a lot of people can be cautious, particularly with all the technology. There's a few components. You've got a mobile app, you've got a server somewhere. It's actually in Sydney. You've got a server, and you have a website on the internet. So you've got these components. So it can be maybe a bit daunting, but just jump on, have a play. You can't break it, and then start uploading some basic data, even if it's not complete. Probably the other point on that is, if you have a project and you already have 100 or 400 habitat units out there, that could be brought into the system, which makes it much easier down the track to track those, find them, track them, update them. So you know, we're working with groups to just try and aggregate or bring together all that data. But yeah, to answer your question, go to ProofSafe, register, have a play.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Mark, for joining us.
No, my pleasure, Andy and Dave. It's good to talk to you, and really appreciate your support.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to see how the data gets collated when more people get involved. Thanks very much, Mark. Mark is leading a citizen science project called Hollow Watch Australia. So please, everyone, if you find hollows in your natural bushland, or if you've got introduced hollows in nest boxes in places, get involved with Hollow Watch Australia. Let's go to a song now. This is The Serenity with Trouble. This was a request by Marky. You're listening to Eco Radio on 4ZZZ.
They tried to bury me. They didn't realize I was a seed.
You're listening to Eco Radio, the radio of the future.
You are listening to Eco Radio, the radio of the future. Thank you, small child. And we are on 4ZZZ. We just heard then from The Serenity with their song Trouble featuring Kel. That was a request by Marky. Marky texted in saying that he was out at Moorhen Flats today, getting on top of Dis Christi and Ipamea. I can tell you from experience that the Dis Christi depressor in Stones Corner, Cooperoo, is absolutely out of control. And I've seen it like a meter and a half high, maybe not a meter and a half, meter high on banks of creeks and waterways, and it's depressing. Yep. It is like the name says, Dis Christi depressor. You're doing the Lord's work there, Marky.
Yep, have a lot of respect for those people that are trying to keep our environment in a good condition and keep those weeds under control, which will have, detrimental impacts on the environment if they're just let run rampant.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're also doing the Lord's work if you subscribe to 4ZZZ this April Atonement. If you atone for your sin of maybe being a lapsed subscriber or not being a subscriber at all, you can atone and join the 4ZZZ family. We are not a cult. I will always make sure that there's a healthy democracy. There's no one true leader here. But if you want to join up and become part of the family here at 4ZZZ, you can go to 4zzz.org.au/support. There's a multitude of different prices you can subscribe for. What have we got, Andy, for April Atonement?
Oh, April Atonement. We've got, I think it's Stork Furniture.
Yep, there's a bunch of prizes that we can win when you sign up, when you subscribe for a year. Stork Furniture has got a record player table.
Yeah, turntable.
It looks fantastic.
Yep. But most importantly, you get that warm inner glow.
Oh,
supporting community radio.
Yeah, I do love that warm inner glow. Again, not a cult. We're just a very community-minded community broadcaster here. And one way that we know that you're a subscriber, like Marky, is that you can text in and a name pops up, and we can have a bit of a relationship through the text line. Marky's been a long-time texter, and I'm very thankful for him and that. If you want to be a friend of Eco Radio, you can text in on 0420 626 733, and you can join the conversation. We were talking to Mark Cashmore, who has developed a citizen science project and app for logging, not logging, that's probably the wrong word, for recording. Recording. That's a tricky synonym to work with. For recording hollows introduced and natural. We were talking about the absolute need or unparalleled necessity of native natural hollows in trees, and how they far surpass the uses of introduced hollows or nest boxes.
Yeah, artificial nest boxes. So very critical, especially with thermoregulation. So they've had a number of studies showing that native natural hollows are far cooler compared to these artificial nest boxes that are actually sitting, outside the trunk, attached to the trunk somehow, which is very important. Imagine, like, on a hot summer day, sitting in a little box like that, trying to sleep during the day if you're nocturnal, and just having those incredible temperatures in that little artificial nest box compared to being inside the trunk where you've got that the water system of the tree all around you, and the cooling properties of being inside a natural hollow. I'd much prefer to sleep in a natural hollow than I would into a nest box. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if I was to set up just a wooden box big enough for me to stand in and put it, in the garden, I would be far hotter than if I had a hollow in that tree where the phloem was, keeping me cool. You can tell that the tree is alive, actually, by just touching it.
Yep.
And seeing that and feeling that coolness that's flowing through the cambium layer.
Yep.
Of the tree, which is the outer layer, specifically on eucalypts, which is quite large.
Yep, in trees, yeah. Especially on a hot day, if you're out there, put your hand on like one of those smooth bark ukes, and you can feel how markedly cooler the trunk is compared to the air temperature. So,
yeah. You're saying, Andy, that koalas prefer the smooth bark on hot days.
On hot days, yeah, you'll see them like really hugging the trunk of the trees, trying to cool down, especially those smooth bark eucalypts. They'll get the temperature away from their bodies and cool down from the trees, rather than like something like a rough bark of the iron barks and things like that.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many like components to, I guess, ecology that we get sort of overwhelmed by all the information, I think, sometimes.
Yep, and being human, we try to put it into a concept that we understand as well. And there's probably some concepts in ecology that we just can't grasp at the moment. And we're constantly learning about the natural world around us every day. So it's still fascinating. Yeah, still,
humans have probably been around like 2 million years as a hominid species.
Yep.
And still learning about the natural world.
Yep.
I love it. Every time I go out into the bush, I'll see something new.
Yep.
And it's fascinating. I love it. All right, let's go to a song real quick, and then we'll do. No, actually, we've run out of time. Let's do a little thing that I like to call the Bushcare Roundup. It goes a little something like this. It's a Bushcare Roundup. They've been pulling out weeds, and then they put in trees. It's the Bushcare Roundup. See, I could just sit here, I could just be talking about how cool trees are, literally and figuratively, for hours. But I've only got a 1 hour show, which I'm glad, Andy, to have joined.
Yes, I'm enjoying being here, and I've been passionate about eco radio for a long time. I really agree with a lot of the principles of eco radio. So thanks for bringing me on board.
Well, everything's connected, and we like to draw those connection dots together on this show. If you want to enjoy the bush starting this Friday, you can go at 8 o'clock in the morning to Wetland Weeders. I love a good alliteration. That's happening at Archerfield Wetlands in Durack.
On Saturday the 2nd from 7 o'clock, you can go to Crosby Road Bushcare Working Bee out at Crosby Road Park, 150 Crosby Road at Ascot. At 8:30, there's For Wild Places Traction Trail Action Cleanup at the Scribbly Gums Conservation Area, Alexandra Hills. 2:30 to, 5:30 is, I've just lost it, Barrambin Wild Art Experiment on Ibis Island at Barrambin, Victoria Park.
And while you're there, go to the Guri Camp Embassy, Sovereign Embassy there on Barrambin. But on Sunday at 7:45 in the AM, you can go to the Seven Hills Reserve Bird Walk with Frank Coman. That's at the Latina Avenue entrance near the Boom Gate at Seven Hills. At 8 o'clock, you can go to the Hayes Inlet Bushcare Working Bee. That's Silcock Street, all up the way in Clontarf. At 8 o'clock as well, there's a free children's gardening workshop That's at Highgate Hill Community Orchard, 94 Hampstead Road. And at 8:30 you can go to the Peace Park Arboretum Working Bee. That's all the way down in Rosewood at 179 Matthew Street. And that's all the time we've got for you. Thanks so much for listening in today. Stick around for the feedback loop up with Imi and Soph. They're coming up. They're fantastic. Great to have new neighbours here on Eco Radio. You're listening to 4ZZZ. This has been Eco Radio.
4ZZZ. Eco Radio.
Radical Radio Collective.
4ZZZ.